Hello, Abby will be in a minute. Just making sure the two of us will fit in the frame. Hopefully we will. Thank you to those of you who've jumped in and joined us today. As usual, feel free to give thumbs up if you find this interesting or helpful in any way. Thank you to those who've joined in all week. It's very kind of you. Yeah, so, and if you're not a subscriber already, feel free to subscribe. I'm the same as usual. I'm normal. Hello. So yeah, so Abby will be in just a minute, and we're going to cover being in a relationship with someone who's autistic. That's the topic for today. So obviously, it kind of comes out of the fact that that chapter didn't used to be in my book. So let's just fold it up. Chapter 17. Nope. Chapter 7. I'm adding too many chapters to my book now. Chapter 7 didn't used to be in my book, but lots of people, when I was giving talks, would hear that I'm married and then ask, "How on earth am I married? How's that possible? What's my wife's views on being married to someone who's autistic?" And my view was that I can't talk on someone else's behalf, so she could then, would she do a chapter for me so that it's got her kind of input rather than me trying to put words in her mouth. So what you often hear in many books on autism, I've got a handful of different books by different autistic people up here, is people talking about how difficult life is for them as an autistic person, and how difficult it is for them to be in relationships, how difficult it is for them when they're out and about interacting with people, how difficult it is for them when they're in work, difficult for them when they're at social events. And obviously I can be very difficult to others as well, as can other autistic people. Others have to try and deal with the fact that you're not responding in quite the same way as everyone else normally does. So in all my chapters, as I've tried to cover, I've tried to sort of explain, here's how I think I'm a bit of a pain to everyone around me, as well as the positives and the sort of challenges that I face personally. Oh, here's Abby.
Hello.
You've got a water behind you.
Hello there. Hello, everyone.
Are you fitting on camera? I think you are. Yep.
Good evening, all. Hope you're all right.
So, yeah. So,
Can I grab my water first?
yeah, you can put it somewhere different if you want. So, yeah. So, yeah, hopefully it doesn't fall on my drum.
No, you won't, don't worry.
So, yeah. So, a bit like how all the other days have gone this week. Some of the book can get read, and then we can take any questions, and obviously sort of take it from there.
Cool.
And see what gets read and how much, etc.
Okay.
So anyway, I'll hand this over to Abby.
Okay.
How this chapter's done is it's kind of Abby's perspective, although I think I sort of neatened it up to try and mix and then it was edited by an editor and stuff like that. And then I rounded the chapter off, kind of having read Abby's stuff. I rounded the chapter off about kind of here's my views on what I've just read about Abby's stuff. So anyway, I'll leave it for Abby and I'll sit back for a change.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the early years of our relationship and when we first started dating. So I first met Dan in the spring of 2001 for a friend who at the time liked him. Dan was very direct in telling my friend he didn't feel the same way. And on meeting me, he told me he liked me, and when he found out I was single, he decided straight away to ask me out the next time he saw me. I didn't think Dan was different. I didn't think Dan was different in any way from meeting him. He came across as quiet, calm and polite. Dan lived in a seaside flat in Bognor Regis, a couple of buildings along from where my dad lived. One day, Dan had sent me a text message asking me if I wanted to sit on the beach. I was quite nervous as I knew that from my friend, Dan had outright said to her that he liked me. We sat on the beach and he told me that he liked being out in the woods or by the beach as he found it calming. He also explained that he liked dolphins and martial arts. All this sounded okay to me. It made him seem like a relaxed and caring person. He did talk about his interest for a while and didn't really ask what I was interested in. Looking back, I know this is fairly normal for Dan, knowing how much he gets engrossed in different topics, but at the time I thought he was just telling me about himself. What I got from Dan on first meeting him was that he was very laid back, calm and confident in difficult situations, and he didn't like busy environments, much more at peace with nature. I met Dan at the same time I was discovering the pub lifestyle in my late teens with a close group of friends. Dan's best friend was close with some of my mates. He had just come out of a relationship, and his friend felt Dan should go out and socialise rather than sit at home on his own, so often he joined them. I thought Dan was okay with these situations, but I've since learned that this isn't normally the case. We ourselves are both introverted to various degrees, so we tend to avoid regular social gatherings. When I felt quite vulnerable after having a fire at home, I was also leaving what direction I was going to take my life. My best friend, who I spent a lot of time with during my school years, had moved on to college, so she wasn't around as much. I was feeling a bit isolated. Having Dan, who seemed so cool and laid back, but also caring and supportive, was much of comfort to me and gave me someone to talk to. I enjoyed spending time with him. Dan would often text me or write me love letters, which I loved. I did notice that his decision making was black and white, yes or no. He didn't like ambiguous answers, and still doesn't. But then, to me, as my first boyfriend, I thought this was perfectly normal and just part of his personality. His shyness is mine. Dan has always said he liked me from the moment he saw me. He was very direct about this. I'm shy and sometimes get anxious about things, and I also knew that my friend liked Dan. My anxiousness made me feel nervous about telling Dan I liked him, in case he was joking that he liked me, or in case I was wrong about it. Over the years, I think this is a more normal reaction, to be honest, rather than Dan's blunt way of telling someone he likes them. If they don't like him or back, he just moves on. He doesn't worry about what the other person will think. It wasn't until a night out, a few weeks into knowing Dan, that a friend asked, "So are you two going out then?" I didn't want to say yes or no for fear of Dan not agreeing with my answer, so he replied, "Yes, I think we are." I think, even when I met Dan, he was aware that his interests and responses to certain situations were not the norm, but I don't think he had made the direct link to Asperger's at that point. He seemed quite self-aware, but I would say that he has learned a lot about himself and Asperger's over the years. I had heard of autism before I met Dan, but I'd only heard of Asperger's when colleagues of Dan had joked about him having some of the similar traits to children he was looking after in the children's homes. Then, in 2007, he had a job where the manager said, almost from first meeting him, she thought he had Asperger's. She asked him if it was okay to treat him as such, as she thought it would help him. It was from this point that Dan started to seriously think he might have Asperger's. That was then when we started to look more into it, and I started to learn more about it. I recognised then that Dan probably did have Asperger's. Okay, let's...
Maybe carry on.
Again, we carry on? Okay. So I'm not the best public speaker, but I'll try my best. So this is closeness and intimacy. It has been a learning experience being with Dan. He was, and still is, romantic and thoughtful. I always imagine being with someone with a kind heart, someone who's able to look after themselves, which Dan is. I always thought I'd end up with someone a bit older than me, as I wanted someone with some level of maturity and level-headedness. Many people think that those with Asperger's don't have feelings. I think this is a myth. Dan has feelings. I think he has just had to learn how to express them. I think it's more a case of not recognising emotions in others that can be a problem with him. He often intellectualises emotions rather than feeling them and being driven by them. He knows writing love letters is something you do in a relationship. The other person appreciates it, so he does it. Generally, the relationship has gone well since the start, but there are times when it can be difficult to be with Dan. He has always been very forthright in his opinions and very stubborn. I've added the very in there, sorry. Very it says very stubborn there. I can now sometimes win him around, but in the early days, he was steadfast in his opinions. If the outcome was satisfactory for him, then he was happy, even if it were to the detriment of others. If I wanted him to stay with me, but he had plans to do something, then no amount of pleading would convince him otherwise. He wasn't easy to persuade. Again, he would spend hours consumed by his interests, computer games, hypnosis, trying to think of new ideas and products, which he would explain in depth. While it was interesting, this could get a bit repetitive. In the early years, sometimes things could get too much. Dan would find being in a relationship overwhelming, having to spend time with someone and having to consider my feelings and what I wanted. We separated a few times over the first few years. Sometimes I couldn't cope with Dan being so blunt, and although loving in some ways, like writing love letters, he wasn't someone who hugged much, who was very affectionate. He rarely instigated interactions, and he also seemed to find it easy to walk away. Because of this, sometimes it felt like he didn't care. Now I know these are just aspects of Dan, and that his deciding to be with me, to him, is a powerful sign that he loves me and wants to be with me, because, as he says, if he didn't want to be with me or didn't love me, he wouldn't be with me. I find that I have to do most of the instigating of the physical part of our relationship. Dan has said he doesn't like taking the lead because he doesn't know whether he's acting appropriately, reading the signals correctly, etc. So for the physical side of the relationship, he is nearly always guided by me. I am also normally the one to instigate, saying I love you, or hugging or kissing, etc. Dan would reciprocate, but in the early days, he would rarely be the instigator. Over the years, he has got better at spontaneously hugging, kissing, and saying I love you. Dan really struggles with being spontaneous. Dan and I rarely argue. We have never shouted at each other, but like any couple, we do have disagreements, and we do occasionally annoy each other. I have to be careful how I tell him to go away. If I just say go away, Dan will take this literally and will leave with no intention of returning, assuming that is the end of the relationship. He goes to one extreme to the other. He doesn't fight to stay, and he doesn't argue, he just walks away. We have spoken about this. Dan has said he finds it a frustrating aspect of himself he wishes he could change. He can see how ridiculous that response is, and yet he instinctively responds the same way every time. Yeah?
Yep, you can carry on.
Carry on. Okay, sorry, I'm worried that people might be falling asleep as I read this, which actually might be helpful.
They've fallen asleep for 5 days already.
Okay, all right, I'll carry on, if that's okay with everyone. Emotional appreciation and honesty. Sometimes Dan's lack of emotional appreciation can be frustrating. I could buy him something he has been after for some time, at which most people would show some sign of appreciation, or some excitement at receiving something they really want. Dan would usually respond to be given the gift by saying thank you at best. He wouldn't give a hug or smile, or show any real appreciation for what he'd been given. Sometimes he'd even say nothing at all and just carry on with whatever he was doing. An example of this was when I found a book signed by Milton Erickson. Dan had searched the internet for every few days for a decade or more to buy a book signed by Milton Erickson. He once found one, but it was very expensive, so he thought about whether to buy it or not, and within less than a day it had sold. I brought down a copy. I knew he liked it and he really wanted it, but all he did was say thank you, and then he simply carried on what he was doing. I've learned that just because he doesn't display his appreciation, it doesn't necessarily mean he isn't grateful. Over the time I've known Dan, he has learned social cues and how to show thanks better, especially to those who wouldn't understand his lack of emotional response. He does have to put in conscious effort, and often planning, to remember to say thank you, so if someone gives him something as a surprise, they are likely just to receive a cold and blunt thank you, rather than something more upbeat. Dan won't lie though, so if he doesn't like the gift, he isn't going to smile, he's more likely to still say thank you. Whatever you do, you don't want to ask Dan for his opinion or whether he likes it. If he doesn't, he will tell you. Some people will see this as him being ungrateful. Dan will see this as being honest, and there is no bearing on whether he is grateful or not. In his view, if he wasn't grateful, he wouldn't have said thank you. He would say that you can say thank you because someone has been kind enough to give the gift, but that doesn't mean you have to like it. He also feels that many people don't like gifts they're given, and he says he doesn't understand why they lie and pretend they like things they clearly don't. Oh, sorry, next page. Okay. Eating out or having others cook for us can be awkward at times, with Dan showing a lack of appreciation. He doesn't really enjoy food. He sees it as functional, as a way of putting energy into your body. If we're in a restaurant eating a meal and the waiting staff come over and ask if the food is okay, I will smile and tell them it's lovely. Dan will like to say, it's okay. If we have been invited out to a meal and someone else is paying, Dan's response is the same. He'll just say the food is okay. He will do the same if we eat at a friend's house. He never over compliments, and his response is always to say it was okay. He's very blunt about how he just shoves food, whatever food is in his mouth, to get through the tedious task of eating. And so he tells people it's better to give him cheap rather than expensive food because he won't appreciate the difference. If you are someone who wants praise and appreciation, he isn't the person you want to ask for it. It isn't that he isn't grateful, just that he will be honest. If something is okay to him, then that is good. To Dan, things are black and white, they're either okay or not. If I go shopping with Dan, I have to remember that he gives his opinion honestly. I remember when we first went clothes shopping. I tried on a dress and asked him how it looked on. He told me I looked horrible in it. And I was really upset. I couldn't understand why my boyfriend would say that. He told me that I had asked him for his opinion, so he had given it. I've got used to this now. If I want to keep my spending in check when I go clothes shopping, I just have to take Dan with me. Okay?
Yeah.
Should we stop there for a minute?
It's up to you. Does anyone have any questions?
After my ramble.
It's good to see that it's familiar to some. And yeah, I think having a diagnosis helps with a bit of understanding around the whole physical side of the relationship, rather than it sounding like some kind of thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than it sounding like some kind of
thank you.
I don't know what the right word is, like weird, oh, why can't you do more of this? Why can't you do more of that? It's easier to know, that's why you're responding the way that you're responding.
Well, we're all working our own way, don't we? So I do things a certain way, you do things in a certain way, and it's just understanding each other. And I think not having any expectations that are beyond that can be met. So I don't expect you to suddenly be this really overly affectionate, spontaneous person, because I think I'd find it annoying anyway.
Yeah, I always point out that if you want me to be spontaneous, you've got to tell me exactly when and how to do it, because or else I won't know. Which obviously isn't spontaneous then. But.
Yeah. Let's look at the questions.
Yeah, I think it is sort of probably refreshing that you're not having to stress about what they're actually thinking. You get that honest answer straight away. You get just, what you see is what you get, essentially.
Yeah, I'm totally used to it now. Totally.
But then there is that kind of, I think you have to, if you don't know that someone's autistic, perhaps that can be then awkward. Do you find yourself wanting to interpret my behaviours to others? How do you handle that?
Occasionally, because I find like sometimes when in public you talk quite loudly.
Yeah, I get stroppy when I get told I talk loudly because I don't think I do.
You'll start going off on a tangent on something because you're passionate about something, you're interested in, and you want to share it with me. And we're sitting in the train, and I feel like the train's quite quiet, and you're just talking and talking. And I'm thinking, just be a bit quieter, because I thought the whole carriage can hear our conversation. But it's only a minor thing, though.
And obviously, I've been to your work dues.
Yeah.
Normally, I think they've been okay, but I know that sometimes people have sat next to me, and
I think over the years, as you've got to know people more, and people got to know you more, and people, I think, know a lot more at work that you do have Asperger's, because I'm open about it, and you've written books that you've shared with people to read if they're interested. But yeah, you have kind of sat a bit aloof in the corner on your own before, and people are like, is he all right? Well, he's fine, yeah, it's fine, just happy in the corner, But
likewise, obviously, I worry at your work dues about accidentally being rude to your work colleagues. Like someone will come and sit next to me and they'll try and strike up a conversation. I think, you are just so boring, go away. And then obviously I worry about what the impact of that is on you, like how your reputation goes down if I'm the one saying the wrong thing unintentionally.
Yeah, it's not on me that much of an issue, though.
No, most of your work colleagues are okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it is handy to have a reason behind sort of the behaviours and to kind of understand
it does.
those things.
It does help. But I mean, I'll just take you as you though. I mean, sometimes when you do like clicking a pen incessantly or something, or some sort of stimming sort of thing, I can understand sort of the reason why, rather than you just doing it because you're like, I'm thinking, oh, he's just doing it to be annoying. No, he's not doing it to be annoying. It's just doing his thing to make himself, feel comfortable.
And it's great to see that you lot in the live chats are supporting each other as well.
Yeah,
being kind
that's
to each other.
cool. That's really cool. This
That I quite
climate,
like. Yeah.
we need to have community.
But yeah, I think using subtle hand signals, there's a chance I might not register them. If I'm off on a tangent, I would be completely blind if Abby started doing hand signals to try and hint that I'm over talking.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't register that in the slightest, and then would get stroppy at the fact that I'm now being told off for not noticing when, if Abby said, look, I'm trying to tell you you're being loud.
Yeah.
I'd probably then think, oh, I'm not being loud. Don't say I'm being loud.
Well, you don't get aggressive or anything.
No, but I get stroppy.
Yeah,
I get stroppy like within myself and within that sort of, because I don't believe I'm being loud. I believe I'm talking perfectly normal and quietly. Just like I don't believe when I get told that like 4 hours have disappeared and I think, no, I literally have been about 3 minutes. What are you talking about?
That happens all the time.
And so, yeah, so bits like that. But yeah, so you want to carry on?
I'll read a little bit more if people.
Yeah.
Okay, so this section is titled Obsessiveness, Directness, and Anxiety. One thing known about Dan is his interest in hypnosis. He probably has over 500. This is slightly out of date now.
Yeah, it's about 3 years out.
I'm going to say that he's got a lot more than the books I'm quoting now, as you can clearly tell. He probably has over 500 books on hypnosis alone, and probably close to 1,000 books on hypnosis and therapy. Aside from this, he also has a huge collection of science magazines, including every single Focus magazine since it started in the early 1990s. When Dan gets interested in something, he becomes obsessed and has to learn everything it is possible to learn about that subject. I've been used to Dan having an obsessive interest in hypnosis since I first met him. I saw no harm in him learning and developing his skill with hypnosis, so I was happy to support him with this. I know others Dan has met have been scared by his talk hypnosis, thinking it's somehow evil or that he is using it to manipulate everyone and get his own way. I think it helps him, actually, as he has learned a lot about body language and social interactions from studying hypnosis. He can definitely cope better in social situations, but that's not to say he doesn't like them any better. For example, if we visit London, he can find this a daunting experience as it's busy and there are lots of stimuli to cope with. I myself don't like London much either, for similar reasons, so we help each other out in those situations. I sometimes take the lead when I know an area more than Dan when visiting places, which I think helps. Since having his bike accident in 2005, he has become even more cautious of crossing roads and will stop what he's doing completely. For example, if he is chatting, he will stop and focus completely on safely crossing the road, then continue the conversation once across the road. I have personally learned a lot from Dan about hypnosis and how it is misunderstood by many and how helpful it can be for people. Dan is also always teaching me about hypnosis and about other topics I never enjoyed in school. When he learns something new, he will talk about it for hours. Sometimes this can get a bit much, and I have to tell him to stop talking or I just shut off. This doesn't necessarily stop him though. He will usually keep going until he has said everything he set out to say, whether I or anyone else wants to hear it or not. I have some coping mechanisms for managing things with Dan. He always had made sofa dens where he will throw a blanket over the back of the sofa and have it hang down over the front of the sofa, and then we'll get into this where it is in confined, dark and calm space. Sometimes I will make these for Dan when he is stressed and needs to shut things out to calm down. I have also made him tense in the living room by covering dining room chairs with blankets. Whenever we see a television programme with an outbuilding or a shed or some sort as part of the property, I joke to Dan that this would be his home, whilst I'll hold the whole house. He is far more comfortable in small, dark, confined spaces than in open rooms. When Dan goes anywhere he likes to sit in the corners, tucked away and secluded. If we're in a restaurant or shop, Dan feels uncomfortable approaching members of the staff and would rather walk out than speak to someone for assistance. So if he's with me, I can ask on his behalf. Not that he's rude or shy. I just think people ask more questions than he cares to answer, and he can get stuck on what he should answer, so he just walks away instead. He wants things to be blunt and to the point. If we eat out, I have to do most of the talking. Likewise, if we order food in a fast food outlet, Dan prefers me to go to the counter to order. If he's going to order the food, though, he rehearses in his mind what he needs to say, and when he gets to the counter, he just wants to say exactly what he has rehearsed. Unfortunately, fast food outlets aren't autism friendly. The staff will always respond with, "Do you want to go large with that?" Or "Was that a large meal?" Or something similar. Dan will have rehearsed to make sure they don't need to ask these questions, and will say, for example, "A medium hamburger meal with a Diet Coke and a medium chicken sandwich meal with orange juice to eat in, please." Once he's said what he wants, he forgets what he has said, so when they ask him whether the hamburger meal was large and he has to reply no, he is normally starting to get angry now, because he has already said he wanted a medium meal, not large. Then if they ask, "So what else did you want?" he will have forgotten, so he will now be getting angrier, trying to remember what else he ordered. Then, like an audio recording, he retries, stating that he said previously exactly the same again. The staff again asks whether the meal is large, and he again has to say no, a normal meal, and so on. For efficiency and to avoid confusion, Dan will have made sure that he says, in as few words as possible, all the information they are going to need to know to fulfill his order correctly. But in most places, it seems that the till system they use is incompatible with how Dan gives the information. Once he has been through this, he is still feeling angry when he has sat down, and other irritations are then more likely to annoy him, like people getting in the way or being noisy. I know now that he has to spend time eating quietly and not talking, and instead just focusing on calming himself down. All in all, it's easier for me to get the food. Normally, if we go somewhere by train, Dan will get the train tickets and I get the lunch. Okay?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, distance and time. Dan's perception of distance and time can be frustrating at times. Dan's view of "it's just down the road" could mean many miles or hours of walking, whereas to me, just down the road is perhaps up to 5 minutes walk. I have to check the distance for myself. I can't rely on Dan's comments to judge how much walking we may end up doing. We once went for a summer walk in the countryside around where Dan grew up, and what I thought would be a leisurely walk ended up being a several-mile trek. His perception of time is equally as baffling at times. He can do something for many hours and just think a couple of minutes has passed. This can be especially frustrating at bedtime, when Dan will say he will come to bed in a minute, and hours later he will come to bed having believed it just a few minutes have passed. Sure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They're used to that. Because normally it's 1 a.m. or 2 a.m, and I'm thinking that I've just come off the live stream.
Dear. And I'm the one lying in bed going, "Where's Dan? Where's Dan?" Emotions. I sometimes struggle with Dan and his reaction to situations. In one of his jobs, he was not in a good place, as it was too overwhelming for him. Also, he was facing discrimination, and changes were being made which were knowingly making his work environment the opposite of how he needed it to be, in order to work calmly, comfortably, and well. His stressed and frustrated attitude was hard to shoulder, as I cared for him so much, but the way in which he would go on about it would be more extreme than the average person. It would make me in turn feel frustrated at him for his attitude, but mainly because I felt helpless. I tried to avoid conversations that might bring up his work, as I wouldn't know what to say. Dan would then say he felt like he couldn't then talk about how he was feeling, which again was not a situation I wanted. In the end, Dan left that job and returned to his normal Spock-like Dan, sometimes blunt and assertive, and sometimes laid back and full of wanting to share his knowledge with me. That is when he's at his best. Dan and I have been together for 15 years. Oh, no, it's 19 years now.
Yeah, 19 now.
Okay, let's fix about that. Dan and I have been together, okay, let's correct that, together for 19 years. So changes to how he is and how he handles things have been gradual and not so easy for me to notice. Perhaps like a child growing up, you'll only notice properly in hindsight. But I think he surprised himself and many others when he started to cry giving his speech at our wedding. Dan has always been portrayed as keeping his emotions firmly in check, So for him to show such emotion in public was very heartwarming and made many guests cry. He has definitely been getting more emotional as the years have gone by. He has emotions, and like everyone else with Dan, they are very black and white. He is either not emotional at all, and it is difficult to read what he thinks about something, or he is crying with happiness or sadness or anger. He doesn't necessarily get emotional about the same things others get emotional about, so it's very good in emergencies when there is a clear plan of action about what you should do, and where getting emotional would make handling the situation more challenging. But when he does get emotional, you can see it has overwhelmed him, like any other sensory input. He'll put getting overwhelmed by noises, things he can see, tactile, stimulation, and things when they occur. When Dan was diagnosed with Asperger's, I think it helped piece some of the jigsaw together. Not only did it mean he could explain his behaviour in a clearer way, but his main reason for seeking diagnosis was to tackle discrimination he was facing. Having a diagnosis would allow him to seek occupational health support. This also meant he was buying even more books, something of an obsession of his. Following his diagnosis, he started buying books by others with Asperger's to see how they cope with their experiences and how they got some positive from their diagnosis. Over the years, Dan has shown an increase in emotion. He is quite the closed book when I first met him, though he did have his thoughtful side. But over time, he has opened up, now occasionally crying at TV programmes or films where the underdog comes good or where someone loses a loved one. The first few years of knowing Dan, this would rarely happen. Now, though, if we watch, say, for example, DIY SOS The Big Build, for example, we're teary-eyed at the end. I think Dan has learned a lot through his constant quest for knowledge, through hypnosis, books, and real life. I like to think that perhaps my responses and behaviours have also rubbed off on him. I think being together means a lot to him, and that relationship has pulled out some emotions that would otherwise not have come through. I know he has often said that being in a relationship and having to learn to consider someone else is something that would benefit the growth and development of anyone with Asperger's.
Yeah, let's see what I think. There's some questiony bits.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, someone else being told that they are loud. Yeah. Yeah, the volume control for me is a big one, even not as a child.
So I was resting. Yeah, sushi restaurant. There you go. Just pick and choose what you want. I'm speaking to anyone.
Although you're not a fan of
sushi,
but
still, it's a good idea.
Yeah, making 3 hour. See, I never plan on doing 3 hours in these live streams. I always think, let's just do an hour. That's a nice number. That's kind of what you see others do, and somehow with me it goes on for 3. I've no idea how it happens.
You enjoy what you do, so time flies.
Well, enjoy is a strong word.
You do it because you want to.
Yeah, that's a correct phrasing.
Yeah.
That's to you, I assume.
What's that?
Did you have to teach your family about autism and my ways?
I think my family were used to Dan having your quirks over the years, weren't they, without knowing.
Your family are okay with quirky people?
My family have their quirks anyway. So it was I feel like you kind of slotted in quite well with my family anyway.
Yeah, your mum sometimes had a bit of an unusual grasp on reality.
Yeah, true.
And that seems normal to me.
Yeah.
So
you can connect quite.
Yeah.
You have quite a lot of conversations where you kind of see the same point of view on things.
Yeah. So I'm happy to kind of, I don't know. I think I have an unusual view of reality, and so if I end up meeting others who have the same unusual view of reality, then I think that's why I just slotted in.
I think because my mum's always had friends that had their own interesting personalities, let's say. She was kind of I think very comfortable around you, and vice versa. And you and my sister, you always like to have good old chats about. My sister loves like conspiracy theories and reading things about pandemics and all that sort of thing. And you two can have like those conversations. But I mean, considering that them knowing about autism, I think they've read some of your book.
Yeah, they've ended up reading my book.
And so that's helped them understand. And now they just see they just like I've accepted you as you. They've accepted you as you, like you accept them as them. So I think it's just been a gradual.
There's about me not answering my phone when I'm out.
That's true. Yeah, because I'm quite nosy. I mean, if someone rings me and I recognise the number, unless I'm expecting someone to call me who I don't want to call me, I will get nosy and I want to know who's calling me. I'm like, who are you? I want to speak to you. I want to find out who you are. And I'm the same with you. I'm like, damn, that's your phone. It could be important. It could be, even if it's your family member.
But even when you've had nights where I've been out and I've not come home.
Yeah, that's true.
And I won't answer my phone to you.
Yeah, I'm like, he's late back home. Where the hell is he? I'm worrying, thinking, where is he? He said he was leaving at 11, getting the train at like 11:15, and I haven't heard from him to make sure he's okay. Because, like I said, I'm a bit of an anxious person, so I like to know you're okay. And then I'm like, where's the answer to his phone? And eventually you call back like, oh, sorry, I didn't think. I'm like, thanks, Dan.
Yeah. But I also hate answering, obviously you know this anyway, but I hate answering the phone in front of literally anyone. I won't talk on the phone, even to Abby, in front of anyone at all. I absolutely really panic at the thought of talking on the phone. So that obviously makes it difficult when I need to let you know that I'm safe and I'm on my way home or something, and I'm not.
Me, though, generally, though.
Yeah, but there's been a number of times when I've been like with Graham and then not let you know. I don't see it. It's not like I go out often. So when I say a number of times, I'm talking about like once a year.
Yeah, true.
But like when I was at the parenting group supporting the sort of parents around autism and stuff, and obviously I was stuck talking to a parent out in their car because they just suddenly had my attention and wanted all this advice, and you were phoning, but I couldn't answer my phone because it was in front of someone, and
well, I guess you maybe just didn't want to interrupt the conversation, but you know.
Well, no, it's because I just can't do that. I can't bring myself to answer my phone in front of people. Yeah, all the questions are for Abby.
Cool, throw my way.
Now I need to hear about your family.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, on my channel, obviously there is the wedding video of me doing my speech and my face leaking for some weird reason.
Or my hair. I'm having a bad hair day that day, on my wedding day of all days.
Yeah.
Anyway.
There's me making your mum cry.
Yeah.
And I don't know, whoever else cry. My best man saying that I'm a socially inept neurolinguist and that you've taught me that steak is more than just something to functionally eat.
It's not. They tend to behave confusion and meaning. Thing is, like I said before, Dan's the only person I've been in a relationship with, so I had no context to compare Dan's personality to. So I just presumed Dan was Dan, like anyone is anyone. They have their own personalities and their way of being. It didn't really, nothing really, I don't know, it wasn't a major thing to me. I mean, a few things like would crop up, but I don't know. I just think I just got accepted you from day one, and never really.
Well, I think some advantages are you're quite socially anxious.
Yeah,
often. Not terribly, but
I've got better over the years.
But back then, you went to the pub with your friends.
Yeah.
But you were going because that's what you're supposed to do, so to speak. You're a sort of older teenager. You're supposed to go to the pub with your friends, kind of thing. I was going to the pub because my best friend was saying, "You've got no choice. I'm telling you, you're going to the pub," and I'm thinking, "Oh, fair enough. Let's go then." And neither of us actually like socializing, so you get more anxious and don't like that kind of, you don't like rowdy people, etc. I don't like the sensory stimulation and things like that, so I'm not anxious in terms of like socially, I don't know, I'm not sort of a shy person or anything like that. And I don't have social anxiety. I just don't like all the overwhelming stimulation and stuff like that, and having to kind of get on with people. So both of us complement each other there because neither of us wants to go out socializing. So I think that had a big positive impact that we're the kind of people that you are happy to go to the beach with me, you are happy to go
Yeah.
to the woods with me, you are happy, I'm relatively laid back, so I was happy to go to the
Yeah, I
shops
mean, the
with
amount
you,
of time we go shopping, well,
and
we
I
don't,
would sit in a
not,
cafe.
well, not anymore, but
Yeah,
prior
not at the
to
moment.
all this, most days I'd have off. I'd be like, let's go to the shops, because I love shopping. And we go to the shops, and you were quite calmly going to a little world on your phone or something, and wait for me as I go in and out of all the shops. And I'd be like, oh, just one more shop. You're like, you said we were going home. I'm like, sorry, just one more shop. But you're really good with that.
Yeah. So I think that what might have helped was just that somehow we found each other and have certain things. We have certain things that overlap.
Yeah.
So you're brilliant at
Thanks.
things that cause me major stress,
And vice versa.
like
yeah.
interacting with people, dealing with change, dealing with uncertainty of things, dealing with, like, when you go to a train station, you've got to get a ticket and things aren't going to go smoothly because the machine's shut, or because something's just not going to work out, or you're good at just going and doing that and handling that and going and asking someone for advice or something
like
if you need to.
If you're not sure about something, I'm normally quite happy just to go up and ask someone, because
Yeah.
I think it's because also I work in a customer facing environment, doing my retail job, so I'm used to working face to face with people and asking questions all the time, so it comes naturally. Whereas, that is quite intimidating for you, isn't it?
Yeah, so you're very good at all those things.
Yeah.
I'm then very good if there's a big emergency.
Oh yeah.
That
Well,
you can
I'm losing my head, panicking and
Yeah.
freaking out, and Dan's like, right, let's do A, B, and C.
So anything where, because it's a big emergency, it's the kind of thing where everything has steps to it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, if a house was on fire,
Yeah.
there's a clear thing that you do when a house is on fire.
Yeah.
So I can handle the big things, you can handle the little things.
Yeah.
I freak out at the little things,
Yeah.
you freak out at the big things.
Yeah.
And then neither of us likes going and socializing particularly. Neither of us likes noisy environments. Neither of us likes a lot of the same kind of things, maybe for different reasons, but we dislike a lot of the same kind of. So I think that's really helped us to kind of work together.
Happy. One more shop is Abby's version of Dan's 1 more minute.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm not into, I'm just replying to Helen's question. Yeah, I'm not into pub scene. No, not for me. Not for you.
No.
That's why we're quite happy in the lockdown. Sorry, use that L word, sorry. Being at home kind of fits in with our normal lifestyle anyway. I miss the shops. But
yeah. Whereas I don't miss the shops at all.
But it's quite shallow though. No, I just we just don't like I find I don't like busy places because I don't like the characters. I think you can find quite loud, boisterous characters that can be quite intimidating. And you don't like the sounds or the situation. So Dan misses swimming. Oh yeah, she hasn't been swimming.
Yeah, I haven't been swimming for ages.
Oh no.
And I'm still paying them though.
But didn't they say they were doing some sort of deal?
Yeah, the swimming centre gave me the choice of carrying on paying them a monthly fee, and they will use half the fee obviously towards making sure they can still be open and running after this all ends, and the other half the fee towards charities for like supplying food to people who need it and stuff like that. And they gave the option of you could either give them the money and they'll split it like that, or you could say I'm not going to pay anything until I can come swimming again, or you can say I'll pay a reduced amount and they'll give you like online classes and stuff. And so I just thought I'll pay the whole lot and they can give some to charity and make sure it's still open when I get home.
Overly expensive considering some memberships are.
Yeah, it's like £28 or £27 a month.
That's like normally half the price some gyms and stuff. Cool.
So, what are you up to? Social.
Okay.
Can't read what it says.
People happy for me to read a little bit more. I'm happy to. Okay, so I'll move on to what is headed as social interactions and emotional connection to others. So, understanding the differences in how Dan relates socially to others is interesting. Neither of us is particularly sociable. We'll just also discuss that. So we complement each other there. Although Dan will put himself in situations which make him feel uncomfortable far more than I would. He says it's because if he didn't, he'll probably just be a hermit, so not interacting with life at all. It would be difficult to be with Dan if you always wanted to go out with him to see friends or go partying, but both of us would rather stay at home. I don't see my family as often as I perhaps should, but I text them and talk to them, and I get comfort from knowing they're nearby if I need them. Dan will usually only see his family if he bumps into them. He rarely goes out of his way to see them, and doesn't seem to have the same sort of attachment around knowing a family are nearby. If I see someone I know, or a family member in the street, I will go and talk to them and say hello and ask how they've been. If Dan sees someone he knows, a family member or friend, he will walk past them if he doesn't think they've seen him. He says he gets very uncomfortable when people have seen him, and he feels the right thing to do is probably to stop and talk to the person, because he struggles to know when and how to end conversations. Once he is in a conversation, he won't stop, even though he doesn't want to be talking to the person for a long while. Dan's dad passed away from cancer in 2014. Dan didn't appear to grieve or show much emotion when he passed, or since. Dan would say how much pain and suffering his dad was going through, how he would be lying on his bed doubled over with his eyes wide and watering, screaming in pain. But it didn't emotionally affect him that his dad was suffering. Dan just got on with caring for his dad. Not being emotional helped him with this. I know if I see someone suffering, it upsets me, but it doesn't usually upset Dan. He wants people to be alright, but if someone needs help in a social situation, he doesn't always notice they need help, or he has analysed the situation and coldly concluded that they don't need support. He often needs prompting to help. For example, we saw an elderly lady fall over as she crossed the road, which can be busy. Dan noticed but didn't think to help. I had to tell him to do so. His perception of the situation was that the road was clear, she was standing back up, so to him, she didn't look like she needed help. She hadn't asked for help, so he didn't. My emotional reaction to seeing an elderly lady fall over was to want to help her. If we were out in a social environment, Dan will not approach anyone. He'd rather blend into the background. At one of my work Christmas parties, Dan sat on the far side of the pub not wanting to talk to anyone, in his own little world. I'd come up and sit with him, then go and mingle with my work colleagues. But Dan appears more happy with not engaging than some others would. Sometimes this can be awkward, because work colleagues will then ask if Dan is okay, or they will think he's rude because he's not engaging with them. But if anyone tries to get him to do something he isn't comfortable doing, he'll be very assertive and blunt, saying no. If I try to push him, he'll become even more direct and will say or do what he has to do to make the person go away, or he will just leave the situation. Likewise, if he has no interest in what someone is talking about, he may politely listen and try to engage for a short while, but if they continue to talk about something he has no interest in, and he hasn't managed to get the conversation onto something he would prefer to talk about, he may just tell the person he has no interest in what they are saying, or that what they're talking about is boring, or he will just talk over them about what he wants to talk about and completely ignore what they are talking about. I often felt embarrassed by some of Dan's behaviours like this, but I've come to accept that these are just a part of who he is. On the flip side, when Dan went and saw Darren Brown recently on tour, he noticed from early on in the show that the street magician Paul Zenon was sitting in the audience. So Dan, on his own, in the interval, went and approached Paul and asked for a photo. I was surprised that Dan had managed to do that completely off his own bat. I told Dan I was surprised. His reply was that he'd seen Paul walking into the theatre and taking a seat. He thought hundreds of other people would have also seen him enter, so he thought Paul would be inundated with people wanting a photograph with him, or his autograph. So he spent the whole first half of Darren's show planning how he was going to take this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get where Paul was sitting. He planned what he needed to say, then went and said it. Dan makes a fantastic husband, as he's a very laid-back and doesn't argue over mundane chores that might cause conflict in other relationships. He always makes me cups of tea with no qualms. I don't drink tea anymore.
Yeah, I drink tea now.
I don't drink anymore, but yeah, he still makes me drinks, nevertheless. Will help tidy up the flat and make dinner. You make dinner a lot. He allows me to indulge in my homemaking. He sometimes moans at me if I'm making a mess in the kitchen, or if he thinks I'm doing things the wrong way, so that he has to leave the room. If he can't see what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, it doesn't bother him. Asperger's people, I've learned, are bright and very interesting. They have passions bordering on obsessions, meaning they have plenty to talk about and can be very knowledgeable about certain subjects. But to me, Dan is Dan, and I don't know any different. Yes, Dan can be a bit more assertive and blunt at times, and sometimes I have to go into my own head when he's telling me about hypnosis if I don't understand, or if he's been talking about it for hours. But I've learned so much from Dan. He has taught me so much more than I think I could learn at school. He has widened my understanding on a number of topics and helped me see the world with more understanding about science, philosophy, and psychology. He listens to me intently and offers practical and achievable solutions to issues I may have. And he thinks logically and rationally, and I think quite emotionally. He helps me think about things in a more level-headed and useful way. I think together we're like yin and yang.
Yeah.
Yep, happy with that.
And then it kind of ends the chapter with me rounding up, saying about my views on being in a relationship, which I might read in just a minute.
Cool.
But yeah, I doubt I have a best dish. I just slap food together and then slap it on a plate.
But you stick with things, but you have the same things quite often though. Like there's staple dishes that you do have, like steak, like pork chops, like pasta.
But for you, I don't know what the best dish is that I cook for you.
Pasta, anything pasta based, I always like. You do make nice sort of like shepherd's pie, cottage pie, lasagna, those sort of meals. You're good at making those. You're quite good at like throwing things together and making something up as well.
That's the only way I can do it, really. I don't use recipes.
No, you don't. No, you're quite good at
You like following recipes to do your cake making and stuff.
Yeah, I couldn't do it without
I just chuck everything together and say, there it is.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, and it's 9 times out of 10, it's fine.
Thank you.
Oh, that's very kind. Thanks, Helen. What's my favourite thing to eat? Oh, kind of said that. But my favourite thing to eat in general, I like carbs. I'm a very carb-heavy person. If it's potato-based, pasta-based, bread-based.
Yeah, you like beige, don't you?
Beige, yeah.
You don't like beige on the walls, but you do like beige on the plate.
Yeah, beige food.
And for me, it's just texture. So steak because of the texture.
Mushrooms. I used to ask you. I don't do so much anymore because I learned this pointless asking you. But I'm like, Dan, do you like that? It's okay. Is that a nice taste? Is that a nice flavour? Because if like there's like a nice, you go to a restaurant and they give you like a nice juicy, looks like a nice juicy thick, well cooked steak. That looks really, really nice. I'm thinking, oh, Dan might think it's actually nicer than the ones he normally gets, and so I'm interested to know if he thinks that. But I ask you, and you know no different. It's just the same. But I'm like, is it juicy? And you're like, oh yes, it is nice and juicy. So I know that. That's good.
Yeah, I absolutely hate cooking. It is almost as bad as eating.
We both don't like cooking. Let's admit that we're not cooks. I don't cook at all.
No, neither of us, as far as I'm aware. Well, neither of us has any sensitivities to things like gluten.
No. Dan, do you like cream?
I only like cream when it's hot. I absolutely detest the taste and texture of cream when it's cold.
So, like, if you make like a pasta dish and you do like a creamy chicken pasta thing.
Yeah, if I'm
cooked cream,
cooking the cream up so that it's kind of nice and thick and it has the right texture and consistency, then I'm okay with it. But if it's disgusting kind of cream that you get, any cream literally is disgusting that you get cold, it's just, don't like it.
Yeah, baking's good. I like to bake, but my cakes don't always come out as well as I want them to. I'm not good at decorating cakes. I've got a brownie packet mix actually in the cupboard, which would be meant to make, so I need to make that. But that's kind of foolproof because all the ingredients are already there in the bag. But sometimes I do surprise myself, but not often.
Even with baking, I largely throw everything together. I have a rough idea of measurements, but if I'm baking, it's a case of throw everything together, mix it all up, slap it in an oven or whatever you have to do, and then eat it.
Yeah. Ellen's question there about you talking about strangers on YouTube as a YouTuber. I think when you find someone, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think when you find someone or some people that have an interest in the topic that you're interested in, you're more than happy to talk to them because you can talk with confidence and about that topic. But if it's like you said in the like I just read, if it's something that you're not interested in, you won't engage. You'll just switch off completely, which I guess quite a lot of people do anyway. But I think Dan's always been kind of like, you'd go to groups in the evening that would talk about hypnosis or NLP, and you would chat for ages there. So it's not unusual for you to
if I'm teaching it,
get into an environment.
I wouldn't chat at groups if I attended them. So, for example, there's not many groups to attend, but I've attended groups like practice groups for NLP and hypnosis and things, because obviously you've got to keep up practicing. And I obviously won't interrupt the instructor. I won't talk. I'll just sit quietly, listen along, do the exercises as I'm told to do them, won't engage with anyone, and will then go home.
Was it hard? I'm on camera. There's a question relating to being on the camera. I'm not overly confident of being on the camera, if I'm honest. Might show, I don't know. I'm much further behind the camera, whereas you seem to do it quite naturally. Whereas for me, I mean,
I'd rather not.
I think it's one of those things that some YouTubers, I guess, when you see them when they first started out, they do look nervous, they do look uncomfortable because they're not used to doing it. And now, like 5-6 years down the line, they're total pros at it. And I guess it's one of those things that if you're not used to doing it, which I'm not, and I have tried a number of occasions to do like videos and stuff like YouTube, and every time I watch it back, I cringe so badly and think, I cannot put this out there for the public to see, so I quickly delete it or don't upload it. But because I feel like Dan's created such a wonderful community here of people, I feel like it feels comfortable to come to. It's not like a completely alien environment, because I know Dan's talked about, how much, he gets out of this. So that feels like comfortable to come to. And it's nice to chat to people that you want to chat to, but I wouldn't go out of my way to do it myself personally. That makes sense. Yeah, ask Dan about his books. If only you could see. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 bookcases. 3 maybe. There's another one there, another one there, another one there. Floor to ceiling full of books. Then he's got over this side, we've got a wooden chest of drawers. On top of that, he's got lots and lots and lots of Britannica books.
Yeah, the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah,
there.
I don't know what year they're from. They're probably not very recent.
They're right up to the year 2000.
Oh yeah, year 2000. He's got a spinny bookcase stand here, which is full of books. Obviously, you know that he's got a desk that is
made out of books.
Made out of books,
essentially.
So it is like a little mini library in here, but I know it's not to your standard. You would want it 20 times as bigger, or 20 times.
Yeah, I'd
books.
want far more books than this. This is ridiculously small number.
But for me, I tried once. This is a few years ago now. I did try to start counting your books just out of curiosity to know how many you had, and I got to over 1,000. And I gave up because there was just too many. Because there's book behind books, books on top of books, books on top of the bookcase.
And many of my boxes have books in as well.
If you could only see it now, you can't see really out the window because
so
there's
the
lots of boxes
that used to be my backdrop that I couldn't hide because there's nothing big enough to hide them. A lot of them have a lot of books in and a lot of especially Focus magazines in.
I know, Fire Hazard is slightly worrying.
Well, obviously the fire would have to get in here. So fortunately, it's not like I have vast numbers of electric ports. The main electric port is the one that this laptop's plugged into here. So it's not like there's electric ports not sort of dotted around everywhere. I'm sure I saw something. Okay, so I saw that baking is science, which is true, and it's good.
It is, and I think that's sometimes why I get put off of it, because it is unlike cooking, where you kind of can just be a bit more creative with how you do it, and it's not such a science as such. Baking, it is. It's kind of like you have to use that because of the gluten, you have to use that because of the sugars, and that works with that, and then that does that, and you have to know really what the product or the ingredients are doing to each other to create what you're baking. And that bit I don't understand, so that's why I follow a recipe, because the recipe kind of does it all for you. Doesn't always mean it goes to plan when you use a recipe.
Whereas me, I'm a far more feeling-y person. So when I cook things, when I bake anything, I roughly follow like an idea of how things are going to, like, oh, it's going to need this much of that because, or else it's going to be too gloopy, or it's going to be too watery, or whatever. but it's largely about the feeling and knowing when I stabbed that, it felt the right consistency, so that's doing just right. And or as I was mixing it, it felt the right consistency while I'm
when
stirring.
you taste it, it's not necessarily you taste it and you go, "Oh, that tastes right."
Well, I've never tasted anything while cooking.
It's how it feels as you're cooking it that makes you know you're kind of on the right lines. Yeah. What's this question? I think because my mum, she had a stroke 2 years ago now, pretty much, isn't it? 2 years ago. And she's doing well, really, really well now. She's living independently. She's going out for walks. I'm trying to tell her, don't keep going out for walks, Mum. You need to be indoors. But she lives near a quiet lane, so she can walk down there. But she is it aphasia? Where she can talk, like the rest of us, but there's certain words that she'll want to go to say, but she can't say them. She'll know what the word is, but just her mouth won't get it to come out properly. Or she'll eventually say the word, but it will take her a few times to get the word out. And you know what she's trying to say most of the time. And sometimes, and when it first happened, me and my sister could kind of tell what she was trying to say. So we would try and say the word for her, and she'd get frustrated because she'd be like, no, let me try and say the word. Don't you try and say it for me. And that's helped me trying to understand you, I think, because sometimes you can't find the word that you're thinking of, and so you'll say a random word, and sometimes like, what are you on about? What do you mean? And I'm like, no, I know he's struggling because he can't think of the word, and I have to, sometimes I don't always understand what it is you're trying to say, and I have to try and think, what does he mean? But most of the time I think I do generally guess.
Yeah, I get very frustrated with you, don't I? If I'm starting to say weird words like flibble or something, and I'm getting really angry, just sort of pointing and
why don't you understand what I'm trying? You're saying to me, why don't you understand what I'm trying to say? And I'm like, I'm trying, but I don't quite know what thing you're trying to
so I'm kind of
out.
Implying that to you, because I'm sort of pointing and saying the same made up word over and over again.
And you'll get frustrated because I can tell you're thinking, why can't Abby understand what it is I'm trying to say? Why can't she get it? It's because I just don't know. Most of the time I do, but sometimes I just don't, and I just have to work it out. And then eventually you'll get to the word, and I'll be like, oh well, yeah, that makes sense.
Do you ever move books around to mess with me?
No.
Or DVDs or anything?
Books, no. Books, I don't dare touch Dan's books because I don't need to, and I don't know. It's your books, but I don't need to go near them. But DVDs, not so much. But I know recently I did suggest, because I was getting a little bit stir crazy initially with this whole staying at home thing. I was like, Dan, can we move the bookcase? Because I don't like it there. I want it over there. And you're quite resolute. You're like, no, it's not going to work if it goes over there because I can't get to them. And I know when I have tried to like move like DVDs around, because I think it makes sense to put them like that, you're like, no. I know you like having things a certain way and you don't like change. You don't like things moving out of a system that you've got them to. And so I've learned that it's not, unless I really, really think it's a good idea and I can convince you otherwise, it's not worth the hassle in trying to change things. Or if it's just a little something, it's like tidying up. You'll have little piles of bits and pieces, so that
that gets frustrating.
Piles of magazines there, piles of letters there, piles of paperwork there. You've got your own little system of why things are in those places. I come along and want to do a clean sweep, clean surfaces, clean table, clean spaces, so it all looks a lot cleaner and less cluttered. I'll move things into a situation where I think, oh, that makes sense why that's now there in that pile. You'll suddenly come in and go, where's my magazine? Where's my letter? Where's that gone? And that was over there. Or sometimes you can't even find it because I have tidied it up too well. And then you get really stressed, and then I feel bad because I tidied it up more than I should have done. But that's just probably just normal relationship niggles, isn't it? Nothing unusual.
Yeah, encyclopedias, the current generation's Google.
Yeah.
No,
we don't smoke. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
Yeah.
We didn't never smoke. No, never felt necessity to. Tried it once. I was a lot younger. Didn't like it. I was thinking, why do people do this? And I don't want horrible lungs, and I don't like being ill, basically. So if it's one thing I can do to avoid being ill is not smoke, then I won't do it.
So it is a good thing neither of us smoke.
No.
Yeah, and likewise, obviously, if Abby changes the topic and I haven't been able to think of a word, then normally it ends up not being important. it just is more of a frustration thing that I wasn't able to say what I wanted to say or come up with it. But I do also, and you've mentioned this on here as well, someone mentioned the other day that you thought that the video was glitching because I would suddenly be talking about something completely different. And you get that, don't you?
Yeah.
That like 4 days later, I suddenly carry on a a conversation that I was having 4 days earlier.
Out of the blue, you just spring up and start talking about something completely random that's not related to anything we've just been talking about. I'm like, huh? What? And I have to suddenly go, oh, yeah, that makes sense to what we were talking about the other day.
So yeah, I don't think I ever. How do I get you to wait without seeming like I'm now interrupting you? I think I would just interrupt. There was one mistake I made once, which was when we were walking near the car park and you were saying something and then I started saying something and then you said, I haven't finished saying what I'm saying. And I said, well, it was boring. And I just carried on talking and then realized I'd opened my mouth and accidentally just said to my wife that you were saying something boring.
But I know that but I know now what you find interesting and what you don't.
Yeah.
So I know
you laughed it off.
Yeah,
but
so
it was
I know that if I start talking about fashion to Dan, he won't be interested, and so I don't expect him to engage that much. But you do generally make an effort to listen. Likewise, if you start to talk about something that, like quantum physics or something, I'll switch off and be like, not interested in that. So that's both ways.
So yeah, so that's you. How do you feel?
Mbti types. I think I've done the test once, and I think I came out as something as, I can't remember what the letters were, something sensitive or something. But I don't want to be controversial. Maybe I'm being controversial here, but I don't know if I fully believe in that. If you can stereotype everyone into those boxes like star signs, but I mean it's open.
I've got mine on my phone, which isn't on me; it's in the other room. But I've got mine on my phone. I can't remember what it is.
That's like INFJ.
If you grab my phone, it's on the side of on the side of where I was sitting. Okay. I've got it actually on my phone saying what I am. Someone asked me this the other day, oddly. Noise irritates a lot. I like nice silent places. Okay. I have to see if I've got battery now because it is near the end of the day and my phone runs out of battery.
I keep telling him he needs to get a new phone because it's quite an old phone.
But I don't need a new phone because it works.
It works.
It makes and receives the couple of phone calls I get a year.
True.
I'm INTJ.
That sounds similar to something similar to.
I'm an architect.
Oh, I did that. I forgot what I got. I know it would have come out something introverted or something.
Yeah, so I am, as you've put there, INTJ. Yeah, there is a video of me baking Abby a birthday cake. I don't know about pretty, but it was slapped together.
Was it the one
with the chocolate in the middle? I had a gap in the middle that I filled with Smarties or some rubbish.
So when you open it up, all the little Smarties fell out the middle. That was cool.
Again, it was just made up. I didn't obviously follow anything. I just slapped it together.
Nice. It was nice.
How do my break products come out?
Occasionally you'll make something and it'll just won't have the flavour I'm expecting. Like it'd be a bit bland, and I'm like, probably only like out of all the times you make something, it's like once or twice out of 10.
Because it depends what I make. It's
not often, but generally most of the time they come out absolutely fine. And I go, and I always.
It depends what I make. I think if I make a cake, like some, I don't know, spongy cakey thing, then it's probably going to be rubbish.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't interest me in the slightest. But if I make it most of the time, I would make you something like banoffee pie or
that's nice.
Millionaire shortbread that I'd make you that actually I'm going to eat the whole thing of. Or something like that, and those I'm much better at making that kind of thing, like a millionaire shortbread or banoffee pie, something where I'm slapping together that kind of thing.
Not generally sponge cakes.
Then I am at sponge. I'm not really into sponge cakes. I don't really grasp it or have the patience.
Do you find them a bit dry?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I don't enjoy making them because I don't enjoy the sensation of eating them. Whereas I do like sloppy cakes, so millionaire shortbread with tons and tons of caramel in it and tons of chocolate on top.
Yep.
In fact, tons of each layer. Each layer is good. And banoffee pie that's just
but when
sort of
I make cakes,
pours around your face.
Do you normally indulge me by eating some of it? Remember that time when
because or else it will
I
get
made a
thrown
cake
away.
and my sister said, "Oh, I got ill from eating it, but you ate
Yeah,
most of it."
I ate
and
nearly
you were
all
fine.
of it, and I didn't get ill at all. So your sister was incorrect.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there is the video of me baking Abby a cake.
But we won't be getting you a bake off though.
No. Do you have favourite pastimes or crafts besides shops?
I have recently, over the last couple of years, really got into vintage and secondhand fashion. So again, it's still shopping, but shopping more ethically. So it's not always buying all the high street clothes that are made unethically, made cheaply. And it's the same as everyone else. I like finding things that are a bit more unique, not so common, that have been worn before. Some have a bit of a story behind it. As you may not know, me and Dan had a little vintage pop-up shop in the last summer. So I indulged some of my interest in doing that. I like being creative. So anything that's creative, I like doing my blog. So that's another thing that I do. I've had one blog for about 4 or 5 years that I did. It was mostly just centered around things that I like: fashion, clothes, makeup, beauty, books, going out places, like day trips. And I share my life on there. And then recently I set up a blog to do sustainable fashion. So how you can shop more ethically, how you can get more out of your wardrobe, how you can, do more with secondhand clothing. They're my interests at the moment. I enjoy and reading books. I do like reading books. So I like rom-coms. Rom-coms, that's films. I like those too. But
Chick lit,
that's the one. Chick lit books as well. So I do like a good old love story, and a bit of comedy thrown in as well. And computer games. I've recently, Dan kindly got me Animal Crossing recently, so I've been playing a lot of that as well, because that's very relaxing.
Yeah. And you like me playing Minecraft.
Yeah.
Although you don't necessarily find it relaxing if I'm building a large structure.
No, a massive pyramid.
Yes. Like when I was building my pyramid, you were getting a little irritated by the
yeah
for ages, and then I'd reach a corner. Yeah, I'd reach a corner, stop for just a moment while I turn sideways, and then and then 4 hours later, I'm still just going, and that's all you can hear.
That was a bit tedious.
Yeah, it was fine for me, but for you,
it's relaxing. I like games that are relaxing.
And Skyrim, you like things like that because of it being relaxing and roaming around a relaxing world with relaxing music. You don't like, obviously, once it's fighting and stuff starts, but once it's relaxing, you like. And even Grand Theft Auto, because I play it by stopping at traffic lights, trying not to cause any harm. It's generally a relaxing
Yeah, we're one of those
game.
people that play it like how no one else plays it. So like, you try not to kill anyone, you try and drive around very conscientiously, so you're not, knocking into things or damaging the car, and you're driving like you would in real life, basically. But I just like zooming around. Open world games.
Question there.
What's that?
My rude behaviour.
Your rude behaviour. I think because I know how you are, and I know how you are, but I know that some people can interpret your behaviour as rude. It's rude. I don't know. Rude, rude is supposed to be the right word.
Yeah, I think people do take it as rude if I've not said hello, goodbye. But I know a couple of your slightly more extended family take it as rude if I've not said hello to them and not sort of acted enthusiastic at the sight of them or something.
Exactly. The ones my family members who really know you, that's they're totally cool with you. But I suppose those who don't quite understand your personality don't get it quite as much. But that's neither our problem or that, so
Where'd you get the energy from?
with me?
Probably, I assume so.
This might be, I've been feeling very sleepy all day. This might be like a evening spurt of energy, and then I'll crash this evening.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't be able to. I just saw I ride motorcycles. I wouldn't be able to do something like that.
I like, I know it's totally going off a tangent and nothing really to do with anything, but I do, because you mentioned motorbikes. I don't ride motorbikes. I don't drive a car, but I do like watching things like Charlie Boorman and Ewan McGregor when they did their motorcycle adventures, long way down, long way around, and they've recently done long way up, which I haven't broadcast yet. I totally love those series of travel adventures. I would never get in a motorbike myself, but just think about the humanistic side of their journey and how it was all very real. It wasn't trying to be polished or fancy. It was like, this is really how it is as we travel around the world, and we're showing you, warts and all, the whole journey. And I find that really fascinating, and I really enjoyed that.
The shirt today says, I'm not perfect, but I'm always myself.
Very apt.
Yeah.
Where's it from?
Zara or something?
Zara, there we go.
Zara,
so what we do is when I go around the clothes shops.
Yeah, when I
go around the clothes shops, I'm always keeping my eye out in the men's section for any sort of t-shirts with like kind of quirky logos on them that I think Dan would like. Something that I think kind of like suits his personality. So things like this, I think I spotted this one and got that for you. Did I get that for you?
Probably.
I think I got it for you. So yeah, it's always on the hunt for like things that I think some stand up that you like. That's why a lot of your t-shirts that you wear is on the streams with the ones you wear normally anyway, because I've got little slogans that kind of.
And I have a bit of an obsession around hypnosis.
Yeah.
In case anyone hasn't noticed at any point. And around other things linked to sort of that and to me as well. And so, for example, when H&M started doing their conscious series of clothing, they obviously meant conscious as in ethical and things like that.
Yeah.
But to me, it was like, oh, I can buy clothes that have statements about being conscious on them. So I'm going to buy those. And so obviously I was getting clothes that talked about different like quotes that linked to consciousness, that they were meaning for one reason, but I saw it as, oh, that's about consciousness, so I'm going to buy that. Fortunately, I don't think we don't buy clicky pens, so you don't have the problem of having to hide all my clicky pens. There is one you've put in here, but it's not a proper clicky pen.
Anyone remember these old school pens?
Yeah.
With the different.
It's not a proper clicky pen though.
No, it's not.
I do like the sensation of it. I can't do it that fast because you don't get the right sensation.
But
I like the sensation of that point.
Oh, the
I'll
pressure.
tell you,
the pressure.
There, that last little point is what I like, and then that point
one
there.
thing you do like. So when we get a new pot, other people probably like this too. But when you get a new pot of coffee and it's got the gold foil across the top that you have to break against the coffee. I always say to Dan, don't open the coffee bit, because I know you like sort of running the spoon around the edge, wait for that moment where it just kind of gives, and you like that sensation. So I always get you to do that bit whenever you get like a new pot of coffee. I
like weird kind of sensations like that, like when you're stabbing microwave meals and you get that sensation of just as the pressure is just right that it's about to give and go through the plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, an Abby Fashion YouTube channel.
Yeah, I'll have to get comfortable with the camera. I'll probably edit it like into its life. I don't know, I'll just get over myself. Maybe more to the point. And just do it. But I'm not good. I don't like editing. I find that a bit tedious. So
I find it very tedious as well.
I like the idea of making it quite smart and quite swishy, not over the top, but just looking, like it's some effort's been made. But I don't have the know-how or the patience to do that, so my videos would be quite rough if I did any.
Times when I have to ask Abby not to touch me. Don't think so.
No, not generally. Doesn't know what that.
You're not sort of. I think in the early days you were far more in my face.
Yeah, I think
or at least my perception of it was you were far more in my face.
I probably was.
And so obviously in the early days I would do a lot of kind of probably backing away more and stuff, but obviously nowadays I don't know, I think we're just right. I'm sure there are times that you're a bit too kind of in my face, but it's not common.
It's probably more when like you're trying to work.
Yeah,
Especially
that's when it normally is.
I'm kind of a bit like, oh, I want someone to talk to. I'm a bit bored being in the room on my own. So I'll come in here and Dan in the middle of trying to edit one of his stories, and I'll be like, hi Dan, yeah, hi Dan. And I can tell that he's kind of thinking, just go away, I'm trying to work. And I'm just kind of hovering around him. But I normally leave him alone after a short while because I know that he's.
Because I can't listen to it and edit it if you're in the room with me.
No. So I normally, just pop in for a little bit, and then I normally know that you need to work, so I leave you to it.
Yeah, you've got Zelda as well.
I've got Zelda for the Switch Lite.
Yeah.
Two Zelda for the Switch Lite as an early birthday present. And I got Zelda on the Game Boy Advance and Nintendo DS as well.
Yeah.
So, and also on Nintendo, Super Nintendo as well.
Yeah.
Slightly obsessed with Nintendo Zelda games because it reminds me of my childhood. So.
And you haven't got Minecraft for the Switch yet. They're just saying they haven't got used to the controls yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can get Minecraft for the Switch.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be fun.
But I wanted to get you Animal Crossing first because obviously that was the big thing that.
Yeah.
While everyone's locked down, it was going to give you something that you could do and something that you might be able to interact with people a little bit.
Get stuck on it though at the moment because I haven't got enough wood to finish a house, so I'm gonna try to figure out what to do next.
See, this is the problem. It jumps down.
Oh, what, the chat?
Yeah.
You can't keep track of who said what.
There's the clicky pen one.
Yeah. Oh.
It's next to me this side now.
Good.
Yeah, you're allowed to go off on tangents without apologising. What Ellen says.
Oh, thank you. I'm just conscious this is Dan's channel about his passions. I don't want to overstep the mark.
Yeah, so they do click and unclick, but they're not annoying because I want to do it really slowly to get the sensation of just that last moment, and then I want to push down the next one really slowly to get that sensation of just when it gives. That's a really slow bunch of sounds, so it's not annoying like the.
Yeah, I have had it in the past. Occasionally, sit there clicking the pen, or I found something that I get something that makes a good clicking sensation. I can't think what, but I know I've had in the past.
You've had hair.
Hair clips.
The things you shove in your hair.
Yeah, I've had
hair.
Yeah, I've had those before, and I've kind of gone, this is quite fun. I'm like, Dan, there's something here that you can play with. It's quite fun. I know you're going to enjoy this, and you're quite good at resisting because I know that when you start, you'll be probably doing it for hours. So you tend to say, no, I won't.
Yep, stabbing microwave meals. Crushing boxes. Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh yeah, you do. You just stamp on them.
But I do like crushing boxes, and obviously in my book there's the talk of crushing the cigarette packet when I was back at Butlins.
Oh, was it because someone's cigarettes were in it?
Someone's cigarettes were in it, and I wanted to crush the packet so that the corners of it would give. They weren't overly happy that I'd crushed their pack of 20 cigarettes. So, yeah.
Oh, dear. Dan in vintage dresses. You be my model.
Yeah, I've got no problem with that. If I think it would make people laugh, then I'd get in a dress.
Yeah. We don't go into enough fancy dress parties to really kind of make the most of that.
And you're not as keen as I am on the idea of the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I have these haunting memories in my mind of my mum dressing up for it when I was younger, a lot younger, and it kind of creeped me out because I was like, oh, I don't want to see my mum dressing like that. And I never understood what the Rocky Horror Picture Show was because I just thought it was just kind of overly sexualized film for adults. It kind of didn't get it as a young child, and even now I'm a bit like, I'm not sure what I think of it. But I know you would love to go to a party and do the time warp and dress up.
Yeah.
You've done it before though, haven't you?
Thunderstorm rolling. That sounds nice.
Oh, thunderstorm.
Yeah. Not here, unfortunately.
See, yeah, you like thunderstorms. You love them. You love the lightning. You love it loud, crashy, bright lights.
Yeah.
You love getting photographs of it.
And I'd happily be in the tent in the middle of nowhere in a thunderstorm.
Whereas I'm one of those people that just like, too noisy, be quiet.
And there's, I'm sure there was something I just saw that made me think of something. I'm sure it'll come back to me. Oh yes, obviously I did share, because after one of the live streams it came up in conversation, no idea how, about the whole dress thing, and so I did actually share one of the or two of the photos in one of the posts.
See, look, you should do Patreon, or Patreon, it's called. And one of those things should be me sharing embarrassing photos of Dan for over the years. I'm sure people will pay for that.
No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't pay to see embarrassing
I
photos.
could find some. Not many, but there's some. Or when he was younger. I got photos of when Dan was young. There's quite a few photos when Dan was a young child and a baby.
They're not embarrassing. They're just
no, they're not. They're
photos
cute.
that look like a child.
Yeah, but some of them are really cute.
Just reading down.
Could you write a short story?
In regards to Aikido, I've often said that Aikido and Wing Chun, I think, are two sides of not the same coin, but of some magic coin. They both kind of sum up everything that I think people should do or be, which is, one is very direct and finding the shortest route from A to B, the quickest solution, etc., etc. The other one is going with any resistance and going with the flow and taking what you've got to move with it. And I always point out that they're both very kind of Ericksonian ideas, that if you can get an idea in directly, you just say it directly. But if someone is saying, for example, say you're going for an arm levitation and someone's saying, but my arm's not moving anywhere, it seems like it's stuck to my leg. Then you say, that's right, your arm's not moving anywhere. It feels so heavy, it's stuck to your leg. You just go with it. That's the right thing now, even if it's not what you wanted. And I remember a client many years ago, probably 2003 or 2004 or something, wanted hypnosis to quit smoking, and said, I'm terrified of being hypnotized in case you kind of make me do things I don't want to do, whatever. Can my husband come along as well? And that's fair enough. So the two of them came around to our flat, and I did a sort of quit smoking session with the wife, and the husband said afterwards, wow, it's incredible. She's never been hypnotized before, never experienced hypnosis, and yet she got every single thing right. And in my head, I'm thinking, no, she did most of the time exactly what I would like her to have done. But she got everything right in terms of, if she did, whatever she did was right for her. So I acknowledged it as, what you've just done is right in this moment. So everything was, that's right. That's it. You're doing great. Everything was a positive acknowledgement of what she was doing and achieving. Even if, so for example, if I said, imagine your arm lifting and have your arm lift off your leg, and it didn't, then I would say, that's right. It's getting heavier and heavier. You've gone so deep that it's actually getting heavier and heavier and it's sticking to your leg. So everything that would happen would appear like success, leading to further success. So I probably wouldn't write a story because I really struggle to stop and write stories. My brain doesn't work so well like that. And I don't have time to actually write stories with all the other things I've got to write and do. But I have often thought about, I have written things about my kind of views on these topics and around sort of Aikido and principles from these areas. I don't know what's available nowadays though online, because I don't, things have come online and gone offline over the years. I don't notice that I speak highly of Abby.
Oh,
I don't I don't speak highly of you, but I don't notice that I mentioned the other day about the hospital experience where I hadn't mentioned you at all for a year of doing a job, and have learned that actually people like people to know about them, apparently. And so I make sure that people know who you are, but I never think of what I do as speaking highly, if that makes sense. I don't. It's not like I speak negatively.
Sometimes, though, it does take somebody objectively to see that, though, doesn't it? You don't always necessarily know you're doing it, but that's nice to hear that, though.
Mm.
It's very heartwarming to hear.
No. What have I missed? See, it's the jumping that I don't like on the live chat on here. People would pay to see that.
What's that, photos?
Probably. Yeah, I like the smells during a thunderstorm and during rain.
Oh yeah, that kind of smells the ground after it's rained. Thunder snow. Thunder snow. That sounds fascinating.
Sounds fun.
Well, it snows. It's fun. It snows when it thunders night when it snows. Oh, never had that here.
As long as I can get my camera out, take photos.
Wow, snow. I can't imagine that. That's an interesting weather combination.
Yeah, I'm aware that there are thunderstorms on a number of the planets.
Oh yeah,
or a couple of them.
Storms. You can sort of see their storm, the way they form on the planets, can't you? She talks like she knows what she's saying, but I don't.
Yes, it is true that I wouldn't be here without Abby. I'd be in the woods.
You would, yes.
I'd be Shrek. I would live in the woods. I would make sure that there's plenty of warning signs around where I live. I'd make sure that it looks as unpleasant and uninviting as possible. And I'd make sure that I sound as ogre-like as possible and smell as bad as possible.
Does that mean I'm donkey?
Yeah, you're donkey.
Oh, we're there yet. Oh, we're there yet. Oh, we're there yet.
To make sure that between us, to make sure that we can keep everyone away. So yeah, and I'd be in a really small little place.
You would be very much a social recluse.
Yeah.
But then if that makes you happy and that's what you do, then that can't be a bad thing. Get out of my swamp.
But yeah, when I met my best friend, I might have said this before, but I was at Butlins working in the pot wash, loading a giant conveyor belt machine, unloading a giant conveyor belt machine. And my best friend would come in, and his version of events was he would walk into my venue and I would glare at him. And as a 14-year-old boy, he'd be absolutely terrified. He'd do what he has to do and get out as quick as he can. And then obviously when I found out he was homeless, I said, come and sleep on my floor. And we end up becoming friends and being friends ever since. But it meant that it was kind of working, that people would get scared off. They wouldn't want to come into my pot wash. They'd want to leave me alone, which was nice.
Yeah.
I like being left alone. I think it's one of the best things ever is to be left alone. And then you grow up and realize that you might get ill or something. And so you do need to not pee everyone off.
You do need people around you.
Yes, you just want those.
At a safe distance.
Yes, you want people who'll be there when you end up needing them at some distant point in the future. Hopefully in a distant point in the future. You don't want to have alienated everyone necessarily. I don't know who Terry Goodkind is.
No.
Who's Terry Goodkind? You heard of them?
No, I'm not interested to know what they do. What books they write. Oh, Sharon says something nice. That's very kind, Sharon. Thank you.
That is kind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at the end of this, I'll just read these last few pages because then it ends the pattern.
And end of the week, autism.
I'm sure I'll still answer any other questions, and I'm sure I'll show some bits. I haven't shown Spock or
well, you do that, and I get them.
Mind the water. So I thought I'd end this chapter with a few words of my own about how being in a loving and supportive relationship has helped me hugely, especially in terms of my emotional connection to others, emotional expression, and learning to put others' needs before my own. even when doing so can make me feel anxious, angry, and frustrated. I think there's a difference between showing love and feeling love. I know people hugging, saying I love you, and kissing is all showing love. So I do these things as behavioral actions, normally reciprocated rather than instigated. I think I intellectually knew I loved Abby fairly quickly because I was choosing to spend time with her. More importantly, perhaps, I also let her spend time with me. As the years have gone on, I've increased my connection with my feelings, and I definitely feel love now. On our 13th anniversary of being together, we got married. At our wedding, I found myself getting emotional unexpectedly because I cared about the event and that I had married my wife. When I met Abby, I was a much colder person, but also a much calmer person. I never went anywhere, which made me feel comfortable. And if job situations made me feel uncomfortable and the employers weren't willing to do something about it, I walked out of the job. When I met Abby, all I did was sat on the beach, meditating and focusing on peace and calm. To have a relationship, I had to focus hard on Abby and her interests. I started going into town centres, into shops, going places and doing things I would rarely go and do. These would cause me to feel anxious. I'm able to control this and continue on for a while, but then I'll snap and say I need to get out of the situation. Abby's very supportive of this part of me. She either supports me, calms and comforts me, or if I say I need to go outside or go and sit in a cafe, she lets me go and do this, and then contacts me when she's done shopping. I never used to care whether I had a roof over my head or food in my mouth, which is why I was able to just walk out of jobs because the possible outcome didn't bother me. Now I think of Abby. Thinking of the well-being and happiness of someone else and wanting the best for them changes a person. I now feel I probably come across as more stressed and snappy at times because I'm doing things I'm uncomfortable with and remaining in situations which cause me stress because it's necessary when I'm focusing on Abby's well-being and happiness rather than just escaping situations. I'm still blunt with Abby and with others. I struggle with lying. I'll just give a straight, honest answer. Apparently, this can sometimes upset people. But Abby compliments me. We have the right amount of similarity and difference. She doesn't like crowded or busy situations or going to noisy places, and nor do I. I can handle situations like emergencies, where there's a clear plan of action to follow, but I struggle to ask for the bill in a restaurant or getting the waiter's attention, or going up to a counter and paying for food, or asking for refunds, or talking on the telephone. All of these Abby is comfortable with doing. She looks after me when I find things overwhelming and need a quiet space. She's even made dens or sofa tents, a blanket over the back of a sofa to create a small tent that I can hide in. And she accepts me taking some time to quietly be in that space. Abby also challenges me when I'm apparently shouting, when I think I'm obviously talking quietly, or when I'm repeating myself when I think I'm saying something very different. And she's good with directions when I don't recognize where I am. On the other side of the coin, I can be calm and supportive and not emotionally affected if she comes to me with a problem, and I can generally handle emergencies well, because there's usually a plan of action to follow in such situations. So that's the end of that chapter.
Is this what you want
as
to
Homer
show?
would say. Yeah, I can show that in just a
Okay,
minute.
I just found something that Dan wants to share. Oh, it's cold.
Cold?
Yeah, it's cold on my leg.
Is it old?
1991.
That's not old. That's
1991.
That's like yesterday.
That's nearly 30 years ago. Dan wishes he had data, like for real.
Right. So
this is like show and tell.
It is. It's yeah. They like show and tell on here.
Sorry, they like spectacle.
I know you have to get it.
There, that's good.
I've got signed Spock and Data all on the same item.
And there's the
It's quite cool.
bit on the bottom. Authenticity part. There. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's the kind of weird thing that I would have in my collection. I showed previously signed Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen thing. For those who don't remember, Abby was actually in the stream at the time.
Oh yeah.
Joining in the conversations.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, and a few other people. I forgot I've got other people.
Who? Damien Maloney.
And Andrew Jarvis. Yeah.
But as you can notice, this book sits closed on a shelf for no one to see.
Yeah, everything sits closed. No one sees them.
So with me, I'll put it in a frame, put it on the wall. Well, I can't put it on the wall because I can't put things on the wall here, but I can at least put it in a frame.
Yeah. And obviously we've got Darren Brown stuff.
Darren?
Darren.
Somebody said Darren.
Definitely didn't say Darren.
I still haven't got him on a live stream yet.
No.
Unless he's lurking there.
Yeah, I wasn't such a fan of Deep Space Nine. Too much, I don't know, stuff going on. Too much human-y stuff, I think. But I will. I haven't watched Deep Space Nine since the 90s.
Well, I used to hate Next Gen. I thought it was an adulty program my mum would watch when I was a kid. Then we sort of watched the whole series. Last year?
Yeah, I bought them all on Blu-ray. And obviously they're all in HD and they're all jazzed up with new effects and so
I really enjoyed it.
I started from the beginning and watched them all again.
Yeah. I can see what my mum saw in it now.
Yeah, obviously Darren Brown's cancelled his tour for next week or whenever it was.
Yeah.
So it will come up at some point in the future with any luck.
Yeah, I'm sure he will do it again because he's got it all planned. He knows what he's going to do. He just needs to be able to find venues.
A date when it can go ahead.
Yeah.
I was perfectly fine with Data as he was in the new Picard series. I had no problem with it. He's a much older actor now, and he's got to attempt to try and look young, so to speak, like he hasn't aged. What I'm hoping is that in one of the future series, maybe series 2 or something, I loved Babylon 5. I was far more a Babylon 5 person than a Star Trek person. Yeah, so, but it's because it had a 5-year story arc right from the outset. And I quite like that idea that there was an episode, but there was an overarching bit of every episode that was in the bigger picture for 5 years. And you knew from episode 1 of the first series that it was going to be a 5-year story arc. So I quite like that. Yeah, so with Picard, I tweeted John Delancey, Patrick Stewart, etc., to kind of say you've got to get Q on there, but you've got to get Q on, but because obviously he's immortal and so shouldn't have aged. I said what they should do is have him so that you see him just for a very brief period of time, maybe from an obscure angle that makes it so that they don't have to put tons of money into special effects, with him looking like he's still young, but then sort of having him comment about something like, oh, my Mon Capitan, how you've aged or something, let me make you feel more comfortable. And then he can age himself, because he obviously used to, as Q, make himself in a Starfleet uniform to appear like the other crew, even though he's not Starfleet or anything like that. So it would only make sense that he would potentially make himself look older just to make himself blend in. And I thought that way they can get Q, have Q looking like an older Q, and just have a brief bit where they have to spend money on some special effects just to hide the fact that he's not really old.
Film recently, didn't they? Well, they took Will Smith as he is now and made him look like his younger self.
Yes, they can do it.
Graphics.
But yeah, I like Doctor Who. As many of you know, I met what's his face, Sylvester McCoy, when they came to Arundel to film in Arundel. They started filming outside our primary school. So obviously, instead of doing our lectures, we wanted to be outside our lectures.
Lectures? What are you?
See, I've told you, I've always been 45. instead of doing our lessons, we went outside. We just left the school, went outside so that we could go and see what all these people were doing filming. And they said, "Oh, we're filming Doctor Who, and here's some Sylvester McCoy postcards, and you can meet him and all that sort of stuff." So yeah, because they were using Arundel Castle and bits of Arundel as replicas for Windsor Castle, because it kind of is built in the same time period and looks similar, and it's easier for them to access than Windsor Castle is. So I like Doctor Who, but I haven't watched a single one of the Doctor Who since it came back on with Christopher Eccleston onwards. Ever since that point in time, it's always just seemed.
The Jodie Whittaker one looks quite good though. I quite like the female.
Yeah, I've not seen any of them,
but...
because to me it instantly seemed like it was just an action program, at least from the trailers on BBC. So I haven't even given it a chance to see if it is like that. But I liked all the sort of the old school Doctor Who that I remember, and the ones obviously dating back decades before me. But yeah, I liked Voyager.
You like Deep Space? No, no one thinking
Voyager.
No. What was it called? The one set under the water.
Oh, Sequest DSV.
That's the one.
Yes, I really like Sequest DSV and Sequest 2032. It's odd to think that the first series of Sequest is set kind of around now.
Is it?
Yeah. I can't remember the exact date, but I think it's like the early 2020s, and then they've got Sequest 2032 set a little bit further into the future.
Can anyone guess what Dan's favourite television show is from? Is it the 80s or 90s?
I don't know, because I don't know what my favourite television show is.
It was on the other day, and I shouted you in the other room it was on, and you're like, "Oh yeah," but you didn't have time to watch it.
Oh yeah, that's because I've got it all.
Yeah, but what year is that? When's that from?
80s.
Dan's got.
It's not necessarily my favourite,
but it's one that you do like a lot.
Yeah.
Has a car on it. Already gives it away.
Yeah, everyone will know. Every person. I can't imagine that there's a human being alive that doesn't like Airwolf, Knight Rider, Street Hawk, the A-Team,
in my head now,
and all of those things that used to be on. Yeah, so I'm planning. I did start watching Voyager again, and I have to work my way through them. But yeah, I like Q. I think Q's great.
Had a cat named Q. Aww, I love cats.
Stargate was okay.
Yeah, Knight Rider, they got it.
Yeah. And as they know, I've got a brother named Kit because of Knight Rider. Because Mum came in and said, "I'm pregnant. It's going to be a boy. What should we call him?" And my brother and I said, "Michael Knight." And Mum said, "No, he's not going to be called Michael Knight." So we said, "Okay, he can be called Kit with double T for Knight Industries 2000." And Mum said it'll be a Kit with one T because she thought it'd be too difficult to remember two T's.
Lucky you weren't called Airwolf.
Yeah, I know. That'd be cool. So yeah, I think he likes Knight Rider, and I think he likes that he's got a story behind his name.
You've got a Knight Rider remote control car. It's about that size. Sorry.
Yeah, and it makes a noise as well.
It makes the red lights go on it.
Yeah.
That wants to be called Hannibal.
Yeah, Hannibal would be cool.
Hannibal Jones.
No, Hannibal from the A-Team. But there's also Hannibal Lecter.
Hannibal Lecter.
I do like Hannibal Lecter as well. I think as a character, he's a nice, friendly chap. It's just a shame about the other parts of his personality or his actions. Yeah, Sliders was okay. I used to watch that. Quantum Leap I like a lot.
Yeah, Quantum Leap, that was good.
I've got from the 90s the Quantum Leap episode book somewhere up here on my shelves. And I've got another couple of Quantum Leap books and obviously the series. And X-Files, although they have kind of ruined it with the recent couple. But I like the X-Files as well. And But all those things, Twilight Zone, all these weird things. But I think they're things that everyone watches.
Yeah, I don't.
No, but I do.
What shows do I enjoy? I like. What do I watch? I like American sitcoms. So, but like the ones from the 90s. So, I always dip into Friends. I like Frasier. I like Big Bang Theory. King of Queens. The ones that are on Channel 4 in the mornings. Everyone Loves Raymond. I really enjoy watching those. Even just watching them over and over again. I quite often watch those. I don't know what else. I like travel documentaries. I'm never one for travelling, if I'm honest. I'm quite a homebody. I don't really like travelling, but I do like to live through them through other people. So I really do enjoy like travel programs, and I enjoy things like Homes Under the Hammer. Anything light and easy to watch. That's not particularly overly dramatic. I find them enjoyable.
Yeah, and I'd much rather watch a documentary than any
But
of those things.
I do inadvertently end up watching documentaries I wouldn't normally watch because you have it on, and I end up thinking, well, actually, this is more interesting than I realise.
Although there are some you've questioned me about.
What, like?
Like when I was watching the documentary about water, and it was talking about raindrops and things, and you were saying, why are you watching literally an hour talking about water?
Oh yeah, there is that.
I haven't seen the North Korea documentary, but I do have all of Michael Palin's diaries signed. Signed copies of his diary books.
These were the current TV programs in third world countries. Are they? Gosh. Well.
And do you remember Red Dwarf?
Yes, love Red Dwarf. Oh, saying that though, I do love. I can't believe I forgot this. The great British comedy. So things like Bottom. I love Bottom, Red Dwarf, Blackadder.
Yeah, we both like all those. Bottom, Red Dwarf, Blackadder.
Things with all those classic British comedians in.
British Empire, Only Fools and Horses.
Yeah.
The whole era
I do love
of 80s and 90s British comedy.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Rick Mail, rest in peace. He is one of my icons as an actor.
Yeah. They know I like Rick Mail because I made them watch bits of Rick Mail.
So sorely missed.
But I didn't make them. Just strongly
Number
suggested.
of celebrities have died over the years, and I'm really sad they have passed away. But Rick Mail, for me, is one of those that really... Mr. Bean, yes, Mr. Bean. That is always good fun to watch. I don't think of any others. But they are great fun.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of comedies. I think Britain did really good comedies in the 80s and 90s. And then for some reason, it was as if it all largely stopped. There's been a few good ones since, but not the level.
But things like Peep Show.
Yeah, things like Peep Show. The Office is okay.
Yeah.
The IT Crowd.
IT Crowd. That's good fun. I like that one.
So there is some from the 2000s onwards,
but they're not the same.
Not the same as not the same quantity. I think that's the thing.
Yeah, they come out every so often, don't they? Like a really good one. We're back in the 1990s.
And Peter Kay released a lot of good ones when they come out.
Yeah. Oh, Car Share.
Yeah, Car Share.
I really enjoy Car Share.
Max and Paddy's Road to Nowhere.
I love Max and Paddy. Oh, that's so funny. In Phoenix Nights, that's another good one too.
Yeah.
See, but just comedies. Generally, I like comedies. Something light-hearted. Something funny makes you feel good. Oh, dead Dave.
Yeah, obviously, I did think at one point about adding reaction videos to my channel, trying to see obviously how I'd react as an autistic person to different things.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't necessarily react in the same way as other people might react. So I do react in the same way as other people for some things, and then there's other things that it's like, well, that had no reaction on me, and other things where I'm bawling my eyes out, and Abby's thinking, why on earth are you crying?
Or it tends to be like if I get a bit upset watching something that'll trigger you, and you'll start getting upset, and I'm like, oh my God, Dan's crying.
I don't think I've heard of the Red Green Show.
No. But maybe if I knew who was in it, what it was about, I might recognise it.
Little Britain's very funny.
Yeah, that's true. That's another good one. Another classic.
And again, there was an era where there was lots of people dressing up as different characters.
Yeah.
Doing stuff. And that kind of disappeared. That sort of comedy.
Oh, it's a Canadian show. You used to really like.
I did.
Due South.
Yeah, Due South.
Yes, in the 90s.
And again, I was talking the other day about role models. Due South obviously has another role model in Benton Fraser, who I thought, that's how I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to stop, let people go first, let people walk through doors and hold the doors open for them. That's the kind of gentleman that I should be as an adult. So yeah, Due South was something that I based my kind of me now as an adult on.
Yeah. Goodies. That's another funny one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Bill Oddie.
Yeah, Tom Baker.
Yeah. Gosh.
But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we were going to talk about. One thing I was thinking for like next week, after obviously Monday is the usual 10 p.m. create a story session. But then I was thinking, what to do after that. And I was thinking I might read, obviously people might say, no, please don't. Some of the Hypnotic Assassin book, I might sort of just start working through that if people want me to read that to them. It's up to you though. If you don't want me to read my Hypnotic Assassin book, then I won't, but I'm happy to. Are you a Simpsons addict?
I wouldn't say I'm as much an addict as Danny is. I do enjoy watching it, and I do thoroughly enjoy The Simpsons. My favourite, though, is Bob's Burgers.
Yeah, we both really like Bob's Burgers.
Religiously watches The Simpsons at 6 o'clock every day. And I do tend to watch it with him. I do enjoy it. But if I had a preference between Simpsons and Bob's Burgers, I'd go Bob's Burgers for me.
Yeah, so in my life, at least 5 days a week, there's something happens, and then there's Simpsons o'clock, and then something happens.
Yeah.
So everything revolves around Simpsons o'clock.
Even my mum's got used to it now. Whenever my mum comes around in the evening, she knows we have to stop and watch Simpsons because if we won't watch anything else but Simpsons at 6 o'clock. And she's used to it now, even though she does it at home now herself. At times, she finds herself watching
because after she'd had her stroke, she came and stayed with us for a while, and that meant she had to endure the fact that no, the world stops at 6 p.m. because The Simpsons is on. It doesn't matter what else is going on. Everything stops. You watch The Simpsons, and then you do whatever else you're doing with your life. And so, she ended up having to spend a lot of time with me because you were working, and it would always be, no, 6 p.m., Simpsons, that's it. So, she's gone back to her normal life, so to speak, having to watch The Simpsons now.
I think they want you to read your book.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. I've not actually heard much of it, like, myself, so I'd be intrigued to listen to.
It's not that interesting. It's a very bluntly written book.
It's short compared to some books.
It is. It's 50-something thousand words. Most books are 70 to 80,000, I would say.
But you just get to the point quicker.
Yeah, I get to the point. And all the hypnosis in it are kind of correct.
Dr. Martin, I've watched an episode or so of that, and I do think it's a good show. I just never fully got into it, but that could be something for me to get into and have a watch.
Yeah, I've not watched it at all.
Well,
apart from clips, I've not.
Yeah, but that's a good show.
But I do relate, the clips I've seen, I obviously relate to Doc Martin in terms of his attitude to things. I think that's the kind of attitude you need. Like House, I relate to Hugh Laurie's House and his attitude towards it. I just think, well, that's exactly as you should be in how you're treating people and what you're doing. And people are like classing this doctor as being obnoxious, etc. But I'm thinking, no, he makes perfect sense. Carry on doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
The same with Elementary. I'll see Sherlock in Elementary and I'll be thinking, well, that's normal. That's how you should be. You should be that observant. You should notice body language like that. You should kind of respond in these ways. And when I watch Sherlock over here, obviously the British show, it's the same. I see Sherlock Holmes and I relate so much to Sherlock Holmes. And I think there's like the scene in Sherlock Holmes where Watson goes out and isn't there for days. And Sherlock says, "Oh, I thought you were still sat in the chair. Who have I been talking to all these days then?" And he's completely oblivious to the fact that the person he was talking to and bouncing his ideas off actually left days ago. And I can so relate to things like that. When I see these sort of characters, I end up relating and thinking, yeah, I can relate to that. I can relate to this idea that someone literally could leave and I would have no idea they've actually left. I'd carry on my conversation as if they're still there, carry on like bouncing my ideas around and just not notice. I'd be that unobservant of human behavior, but of like things like, I don't know, social behavior, and yet very observant of something minuscule like, didn't you notice the bit of mud they had on their shoe? It was obvious where they came from. It's obvious they walked through the park and they went here and they did that and they went over there. And so I can notice all that ridiculous detail, but you tell me that they've changed their outfit and I've got no idea that that's happened.
Yeah, whereas I notice someone's changed their outfit or changed their hairstyle. I'm like, yeah, they've straightened their hair today. They've washed their,
And you'd notice, well, they were a bit off with you. They clearly were intimidated. They were clearly whatever. And I wouldn't notice the emotions necessarily of them, but I would notice something really mundane and stupid, which is kind of the way it is every day, that I literally can say, oh, there's a butterfly down there, kind of a pinprick in the distance, and you'll moan about how on earth can you see that?
Yeah, you quite often.
And yet I can't see something under my own nose.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Very good. Well, I'll be listening. Yeah, I should be listening tomorrow. Have a listen.
Yeah, while you're playing your game.
Yeah.
Probably.
But
yeah, and obviously if I've got anything else that you think, oh, wonder what else Dan's got in his room. I've got my little head up there. Above your head.
Oh gosh, I don't know what you meant for a minute. I was like, what's
I've got a head above your head. I get very annoyed with this.
Phrenology head.
Yeah, because obviously it's complete rubbish. And someone should one day design a proper kind of neurology version that has markings telling you actual, like, behind this space would be where this part of the brain is, and behind that space would be where this part of the brain is, rather than a phrenology head. But it's the closest thing I can get. Yes, I have a head. So we might be able to actually end this a bit earlier than usual, which is probably a relief for everyone.
I can get my pajamas on.
Yeah, you can get into pajamas and go to bed, and I can make a coffee or something. And then tomorrow we will do our evening creating some kind of a story thing for those of you who come and join me in that. And then Tuesday I will read some of my Hypnotic Assassin, and we'll see how long it takes me to get through that book, or how long it takes me to get to where you say, oh God, no, please stop reading. Just reading what people are saying.
Hot dog.
Yeah, someone else obviously agreeing with your pajama thing.
Yeah. Pretty much staple wardrobe at the moment. Pajamas.
So, thank you all for joining us here, and thank you, Abby, obviously, for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to chat.
Getting out of her pajamas to come on camera. So, yeah, thank you, and I will see you all, those of you who join me, tomorrow. Feel free to give a thumbs up to this video if you found it interesting at all, and feel free to subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and obviously feel free to tell others. I've just done obviously 6 autism videos, and we've done this last one, but done 6 autism videos, each about 3 hours long, this one 2 hours long. So each one has a kind of core theme, so feel free to, if you know anyone who you think, oh, actually they might find that interesting, they've got a child who's autistic, or that person is autistic, or whatever, feel free to share them and just make others aware.
Just like hypnosis.
Yeah, but feel free to share them, make others aware. who might be interested in them, because everything helps just to get a few more views on those, given that they were 3 hours talking about those topics.
Cool.
So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
See you later.
Good afternoon, wherever you are.
And then it just takes a while to make everything go away. See you later.